Matt Canavan, thanks for your time. You heard the Prime Minister just before saying, well, Defence is looking into whether we should scrap this deal to lease the port of Darwin to a Chinese company. Now, this is a lease worth $500 million. So it's plainly going to cost us many millions of dollars in compensation to tear it up, as well as repaying the actual price that they've paid. Should we do this?
Well, Andrew, I'd be happy to wait for this advice. I think I do support the review here. I believe the security situation has changed in the last 5 to 6 years. 5 to 6 years ago, the Defence Department said they did not have a concern with the sale of the lease of the Darwin Port to this company. But I think it's worthy to review that, given the actions we've seen from China in recent years. And if it were to come to the fact that we should reacquire this asset for Australia, I'd like to see Australian companies support and buy out the port. Where are those Australian companies willing to buy back Australia? I gave a speech about this last week about it would be great to see Australian corporate leaders not just fly rainbow flags in their offices, but also to fly Australian flags, defend and support our nation and help us buy back Australia.
Well, I'm not sure how they'd look on their balance sheet if they're not really in the port business, but look, maybe it's all hands to the
Well, Andrew, we expect
deck.
businesses to do. We expect businesses to look after the environment now. We expect businesses to pursue community goals and objectives, and I think it's also incumbent on businesses to support and defend our nation as well. I don't think this will be a loss-making venture. The Darwin Port can make money. But why not look to Australian assets and building up this country, not just investing overseas?
Matt, the ban on Australian citizens coming back from India because of the virus. Now, I said in my piece yesterday, I thought it's wrong to leave Australian citizens in danger if they've got the virus. Where are they going to get treatment in India compared, when we've got hospitals here? And the Prime Minister did seem to suggest this ban may now end even before the initial 2-week suspension. He also backed off the threat to fine or even jail Australians who do come back. Here he is.
I think the likelihood of anything like that occurring is pretty much zero. This is a measure which ensures that we can keep Australia safe at this time and we can get more Australians back safely. I mean, frankly, if we'd not put these measures in place and we saw the rates of increase of the virus coming through in these flights, putting stress on our quarantine system, breaking out across the country and seeing a third wave, then equally you would have told me, pretty bluntly I suspect, that I'd failed Australia.
Now, I've got to say, Matt, that the public seems right behind the Prime Minister on this, and I know that viewers here were very much against me last night arguing against this ban, and they sure let me know it. You were against the ban too. What do you think today?
Oh, I still am, Andrew. I don't believe that we should just look to polls to make decisions on issues like this. And while I understand the viewpoint of Australians, I think that viewpoint would change if and when more of the stories that come from real Australians who have family and friends in India are revealed. In the last 24 hours, I've spoken to many people with heartbreaking tales. I've spoken to a family whose mother went to India to see her sick father. She has 2 young children stuck now in Australia without their mother, or she's stuck in India and they're here, and they don't have their mum for an indefinite period of time. Now, these people are Australians. We're talking about Australian people, Australian citizens. And I worry that this coronavirus has destroyed not just our freedoms, but sometimes our sense of humanity to each other. A year ago, or 15 months or so ago, we sent planes to Wuhan to get Australians out. That was before we had a quarantine system established, before we really knew much about the coronavirus. We were even more worried back then about it. But we did that because our fellow Australians were stuck in Wuhan and we wanted to get them out. And now, 15 months down the track, we are taking a leaf from Pontius Pilate and washing our hands of the circumstances of our fellow Australians. I don't think that is right. And yes, I hear what you're saying about the wider opinion, but I tell you what, there's a lot of frustration and isolation in our Australian Indian community, which is very sad because they are very good Australians. It's a great community, And I do think the government needs to respond here now and get rid of this as soon as possible.
Now, Matt, I'm actually out of time, but I can't help noticing that you're standing in front of a Beef Australia thing. It's Beef Week, or I don't know why it's Beef Week. For me, it's always Beef Year. Did you notice that the CSIRO, meanwhile, has put out a paper and a plan to get us to eat more insects instead because of global warming, among other things? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see the CSIRO put on a Bugs Week Expo and see how that goes, Andrew. It's been fantastic. Beef Week here this week has had record numbers yesterday, 31,000 people through here in Rockhampton. I am testing the hypothesis of can you eat too much beef this week. I've had a lot of it. It's beautiful Australian beef, and people here love it. Australians love it. They want to eat it. I don't know if they're going to take to bugs. I don't think that is on the palate of many Australians. But I mean, this is, in a more serious note, Andrew. This is a once proud industrial science organisation of our country. They've invented so many things for our nation, and now they are posting absolute trivia on social media about eating insects rather than beef, pork, or chicken. It is
but
such
it's
a
to save the planet, Matt Canavan. It's to save the planet. Honestly, you reckless
well, good luck, but even if you believe in all
warming.
that, no one is going to eat bugs. It's not going to happen. You guys go first. I want the CSIRO scientists to go away.
Been to Asia. Some
produce a
people
recipe
do.
book of how they eat bugs and come back and report to the rest of us how they feel. You go first. That's always should be the way with this stuff.
Done.
Let the greenies go first and see what it's like.